Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we have another devblog for update 1.101, and this time it's to have a look at those new P47 variants which are coming into the game. And yes, we're getting two Razorbacks. We're getting an American Razorback, and we're also getting a British Razorback. The British one is a premium known as the Thunderbolt Mark I, where the American one is the P47D22RE. Both have been highly anticipated for an incredibly long time, even though we do have a lot of P47s in the game, ranging from the Ds to the Ms. Generally, the one thing that's been missing from the ranks of P47s is the Razorback P47s. The way that you can tell a P47 Razorback from one of the ones that we have in game is the canopy that you can see here. It's much more straight-edged instead of a bubble canopy, which you'll be used to on a bunch of other machines. But if we talk about the general performance, or we talk about the general layout, the vehicles are incredibly similar to what we've seen before from the lower tier D variants. The machines still have the 850 cals, which will pack a ridiculous punch, whether you're shooting some lightly armored targets on the ground, whether you're ground pounding, or when you're using this thing as it should be, as a high altitude boom and zoomer, going after planes in aerialistic. Some of my fondest memories 4 to 5 years ago when it comes to War Thunder is using machines like this, using machines like the P51 as well, and going up high and energy, keeping a ton of energy, diving down on German and Soviet planes and just annihilating them with the 50 cals. It's generally a very fun thing to do, especially when you get those tracer rounds and the APIT rounds, and I can't wait to do that again once these machines get added to the game. It is true that the P47s are some of the oldest vehicles in the game, along with a bunch of other ones released when the American tech tree came out, and it was always a shame not seeing the Razorback, being one of those which was represented in the tech tree. It reminds me a lot of other things, such as the fact that the Spitfires had to go for quite a long time without having some of their defining variants, or even the Mosquito still not being able to have some of its defining variants as well. Instead, we have obviously the fighter-bomber version and some kind of anti-submarine one. But hopefully at some point, when it comes to, stuff such as the Mosquitoes, stuff such as other machines, there will be some retribution for them. Hopefully, so at some points we will see some more variants of them, and it also gives at least me hope, and many others, that there is a chance that some of the older models in the game can get some updates and can move forward. It's kind of amazing over the last few years that while we've been going into this modern era of War Thunder, especially after updates 1.71, the Advancing Storm with stuff like the Abrams, the Challenger, the Leopard 2K, and then after that the 2A4, and the further expansion of the ground forces. And then last year, obviously, with night vision, we got the Phantom, the MiG-21, and all of those incredibly modern vehicles compared to their World War II counterparts. There's always been a feeling that World War II machines in War Thunder have been forgotten. And, well, to be honest, that's not the case, is it? It basically just means that a lot of the World War II machines have already been added to the game, and it's kind of nice to just see some more modern, more unique stuff for top tier, so people who enjoy the modern era, have something to play. I've said many times, when it comes to at least my feelings on the subject, that yes, it would always be nice to see more Second World War vehicles, but at least for me right now, I'm pretty much content of what we have in the game. As I said, apart from maybe a few Mosquito variants, apart from maybe a few certain variants here or there, which were key and strategic stuff in the Second World War, generally, I think the amount of World War II vehicles and the variations of World War II vehicles War Thunder has to offer is greater than any game out there. And for me, that is kind of a completely fine thing. So whenever we get something like the Razorback P47s, whenever we get something like the Chiha LG long gun, or something like the Char 2D from last update, I see it as something which is just wonderful to see, kind of like an extra tidbit on top of stuff which we were going to see anyway, such as in this update, you know, the T72s, which is obviously going to be one of the main selling points, and stuff like the Jaguar, the SU7 BKL, and, well, the Q5. The other stuff as well, when we have a think about like the P47 and its general ramifications, this thing isn't really going to change the game, you know. It's very similar to the other P47s that we have. If anything, this just means that people in our arcade will be able to take more P47s in their lineups, and if they want to use them as strike fighters or ground attackers with the bombs that are available and the rockets that are available, they're going to be incredibly effective, and also just have a ridiculous amount of weaponry on them to be able to take out whatever they want, which will be lovely. The other thing that cannot be looked over is the camouflages that these two vehicles have are absolutely beautiful. So this is the American camouflage that you can see with the checkered front on it. I think this is absolutely stunning. This is the British one for the Thunderbolt Mark 1. You can see it has a skull within in the Ace of Spades. I would love this as an individual decal. I think this would be awesome to see in the game. And then just the general, you know, the general skin overall itself is just a beautiful one. It really is a stunning piece of work, whoever has created this. And the cockpit is fully modeled, everything is fully modeled. It's just looking really, really nice overall for the vehicle. So yeah, it is kind of sad that obviously the Thunderbolt is a premium, you know, for the British, but then again, it is an American vehicle, so you can kind of understand. It will also slot into lineups either in ground realistic, or it'll slot into lineups in air arcade, and if you want to take it in air realistic, it should be a pretty good grinder to be able to take and to be able to do, you know, a ton of damage to whatever you fight, but also really good for SL grinding. There is a ton of planes already there for the British, which are good for that. You know, the Mustang is stat there, stuff like the not the Hellcat, the other thing, but the I can't specifically remember which planes are there. I just know that there are a ton of them at rank 2 for Britain, which work really well to be able, you know, to grind out. And hopefully this means that, you know, we see more variants of older vehicles. One thing that we've also seen over the last few years, which I feel like has gone unnoticed by general individuals, is the fact that a lot of older vehicles have been getting model updates. Even recently, with this update, the B6 is getting itself a interesting cockpit. But even before then, we had the Spitfires, which had their updated models, the Mark 5s. Then we had the Ju-88s, which got their updated models. The Ju-87s also got updated models. The Heinkels, the HE-111s, they also got updated models, and also some Japanese stuff did, some American stuff got changed, and these are changes which, as I said, I feel like go unnoticed to a lot of people, but as a person who they don't go unnoticed to, I can just say it is wonderful to see them happening. It must just be kind of a lost leader for Gaijin to be able to go back to older models and basically renovate them, you know, make them better, make them look nicer, make them just look better in the game. Like, basically they are spending money there to replace something that they've already spent money on, and none of these things are really premiums. They're all, you know, standard tech tree vehicles. So that is for me a look at how sometimes not everything has to be money motivated. You know, we talk about a lot with stuff like the Heat FS change. Obviously, that is very much money motivated. There is no other reason why you do that, because, you know, it just worsens the gameplay for people. When it comes to stuff like the Sparrows being added, yes, they're really cool, but it's going to be an extra modification that people have to GE, so therefore, you know, once again, it will be money motivated when it comes to it at the end of the day. But when it comes to updating older models, when it comes to adding stuff like the Razorback, I really don't think stuff like this is money motivated, because what money are you actually going to be making out of it? Apart from something like the Thunderbolt Mark 1, which of course is going to be a GE premium, stuff like updating the Spitfires, updating the Heinkels, and hopefully, eventually, updating stuff like the B17s, that's never going to net them any money. And it's just nice to see that there are parts of the game which aren't, so money motivated. It's awesome to see the Razorback. It really is. It's one of those planes which is iconic in history, and now it will be iconic in War Thunder. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.